listening to this now and you're in the position of considering doing that, all I can say is heed our warning.
But they say that men learn from their mistakes and wise men learn from other people's mistakes.
You would be amazed by how many entrepreneurs just fail to register this concept when they first start, and they just are set and fixated, and it's like tunnel vision on the thing that they are passionate about.
The feelings that you experience when you make that big mistake of choosing a wrong product is having your head in your hands, looking at a Facebook ad, campaign performance, and just seeing money whittle away.
Referring to obviously Facebook and Instagram ads as a whole, they can really drain your budget quickly if you don't know what you're doing.
Be really successful and keep the downside incredibly low with dropshipping.
One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen that I wish that we could just help people avoid. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked Podcast, your key to unlocking the secrets of high-ticket dropshipping. I'm Lewis Smith, founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Eardley. Now, when we're not recording podcast episodes, we're running our own e-commerce businesses and helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. So if you're ready to learn how to build your own 6 or even 7-figure business, pick up a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage, whether you're looking to replace your income or launch a side hustle. I wrote this book as a roadmap to help you launch a low-maintenance, high-profit e-commerce business that gives you the freedom to spend more time with your family, travel the world, and work on your own terms. Ready to join us? Visit htabook.com to get your copy today. Now sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Have you ever stood on the edge of a cliff, looking down and seeing a huge drop and knowing that one wrong step could send you plummeting? Well, that's how a lot of people may feel when they start dropshipping without any training, without any experience, without any support from a community. Today, Lewis and I are going to make sure you feel completely equipped to tackle the e-commerce landscape, and we'll let you know about the potential pitfalls that are out there and the common mistakes that we see, so you can avoid all of those when you start a dropshipping business. We've had emails in related to this question, so one particularly from Raheem. So if you as well have had that conversation with yourself, if you've had those thoughts, whether you might make a mistake, well, today's episode, by the end of it, you'll know the common mistakes that we see, so you can avoid all of those and achieve all of your goals with an e-commerce business. So with this in mind, Lewis, why do you think so many people may have this concern about making mistakes before they get started with a dropshipping business?
Yeah, well, it is a fear that many entrepreneurs make, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur and you haven't been through this before. You know, setting up any business involves learning from mistakes as you go. It's just part of being in business. That is part of the journey. You have to know that there will be bumps in the road ahead, and you have to be ready and willing to embrace those bumps as you get to them. The smart entrepreneurs, though, do something where they learn from other people's mistakes and errors before them. They don't go into it thinking that they have to reinvent the wheel from the outset. They realize that there are probably people out there who've made the same costly mistakes that I'm afraid of making. So how can I get around them? How can I avoid those types of mistakes when I go through it the first time? Now, of course, there will still be mistakes you'll make. You have to accept that in business. But often people who have their businesses up and running and have started will get to a point. So say, for example, you have already launched and you are up and running already. You might get to a point where you realize that to get to the next level, to scale up, you need to get around like-minded people. You can't, continue to operate on a desert island on your own as a lone ranger. And often if you're not surrounded by other people who are operating their businesses in the same country as you, the same environment as you're in, then it can start to feel like a bit of a lonely path. And you can start to fear that there might be challenges ahead that you won't have anybody to ask who's in your same shoes when you get to that point. So I think those are the reasons, whether you're just starting out and it's like, I'm afraid of what I don't yet know, or if you're already up and running and you think, I know that there will be more challenges ahead and I need to get around other people who can foresee those challenges and help me because they've already overcome them. Those are kind of the two, I think, areas where this episode will be most impactful today. So if you fall into one of those two camps, then I think this should be a really valuable episode for you.
Absolutely. And I remember falling into those two camps, or one of those camps, when I first started. It was a bit lonely because I didn't have anyone around me to ask for help or ask for their experiences within dropshipping. So I went out alone, and then those fears started to come about what if I make a huge mistake? And I've got nobody to ask about whether I'm making a mistake already. And so I made plenty of mistakes, and I didn't have people to ask until I joined a community. But they say that men learn from their mistakes and wise men learn from other people's mistakes. So that's the aim of this episode then, Lewis. We're going to talk about the mistakes that we see most frequently and guard you off people listening to avoid those mistakes as well. So let's kick things off straight in, Lewis. What do you think some of the most common mistakes that you see new dropshipping business owners make?
Yeah, I think number one has to be not choosing the right products to sell. It's easy to come into a business like this and be really attached to what you think will sell, perhaps because you're passionate about it and you've been told previously to follow your passion. That's fine. That's maybe something that's got you to where you are now. But say you thought, okay, I'm going to go into this market and I know what I'm going to sell already. You could, in theory, go out to your high street and start asking people if they want to buy the thing that you're considering selling. But imagine how limiting that's going to be, just relying on kind of one-to-one interactions and on the hope that you can put a product that you think will be popular in front of them and get them to buy. It's going to be very difficult, an uphill battle. It'll take you years to get any real traction. But we lay out 9 different UK-specific data analysis strategies. So these are things that we've used personally to validate the success of products and niches that will work within the UK market, so that when you start, you know that you'll have supplier availability, you'll have product demand, you'll have a nice, consistent and stable brand, you'll have abundance of different marketing channels that you can go down. You'll have pricing stability. So you know that it won't just be a race to the bottom to be the cheapest retailer out there. So all of these things we teach you step by step in over the shoulder tutorials of how to actually run through that, so that at the end, once you've done your research, you've whittled down your list of potential ideas and you land on selling a certain item or a certain subset of a niche group of items, you now know that people are searching for those and you can serve your ads to those people, right? So rather than going down to your local high street and saying, hey, do you want to buy one of my products that I think will be really popular? You now kind of sit back and your marketing system allows people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in that. And remember, the reason you're selling these products is because you knew that there were people already raising their hand saying, I'm interested in that. So we've reverse engineered demand. Now, this seems really simple, but you would be amazed by how many entrepreneurs just fail to register this concept when they first start, and they just are set and fixated, and it's like tunnel vision on the thing that they are passionate about. And as you know, if you've listened to this podcast before, is get passionate about the business that's making you tens of thousands of pounds in profit per month. You don't necessarily have to be passionate about the product you're selling specifically, because eventually you won't really even be involved in the interaction with the product within the business. You might be managing a couple of virtual assistants who do all of that stuff. Your passion can be the business and growing the actual business itself, and the freedom that gives you as an entrepreneur in terms of lifestyle and financial and time freedom. So the next thing that people do is that they will often ignore the marketing performance that they're getting. So whatever it is that you land on, and there are tens of thousands of niches out there, right? The different product categories, options that you could decide on. And once you've validated those using the data, as I said, you can be really confident that that's going to work from the outset because we've put it through the criteria. So there's very little guesswork remaining. But something that I explain to our members is that if you are marketing product and for some reason they're not selling, then don't just ignore the performance of those campaigns. That's telling you, that's giving you a clue into the mindset of your market, the people who will become your customers. Maybe they're not resonating with the first few suppliers or brands that you've signed. That's totally fine. And that's normal. You'll find that when you sign 10 suppliers, 2 of them or 20% of them will yield 80% of the results. It's the Pareto principle. And it's something that shows up again and again in not just e-commerce, but all walks of life. So that's why I explain to our members, it's really easy to then become passionate about the business once it's making you tens of thousands of profit per month. And it enables you to live from anywhere on the planet and operate your business from a laptop, have complete time freedom, location independence, secure your financial future. That's the thing that I become passionate about. You don't necessarily need to be a product expert. So I wouldn't fall into that trap either.
Yeah, and it's easy to become passionate once you're up and running, making sales, and you're focusing on really scaling the business and living life on your own terms. But when you mention all of those mistakes that you see most common, it felt a little bit personal because I've fallen into those traps myself, especially the choosing the wrong product. That's a big one. And it was the first mistake I made. I rushed into choosing a product. And what that really leads to down the line and the feelings that you experience when you make that big mistake of choosing a wrong product is having your head in your hands, looking at a Facebook ad, campaign performance, and just seeing money whittle away and not understanding what you can do to improve that. So, and you don't notice that when you're making the mistake. When you rush into a product choice, it looks like you might be making the right call. It's only down the line when you start running ads, as I did, you realize that to choose a product that's correct is such a big decision that you need to get it right, and you need to do it as you do, Lewis, and how you teach, which is based on the data. And it's, I wish I'd known that earlier, to be honest. It would save a lot of heartache. But yeah, not noticing my Facebook ad performance as well was something that I fell into. And there's quite a lot of tales actually about people that start Facebook ad campaigns for dropshipping products. Perhaps they've been dropshipping from China, from AliExpress, and that can lead to a lot of disappointment. So I guess you've probably come across those tales and stories as well of people that start with Facebook ads and try the AliExpress dropshipping model.
Yeah, it's a story that we hear time and time again, all too frequently. And it's really frustrating for us to hear because we think, we could have avoided you that pain, that costly mistake. Maybe you didn't find us early enough in your journey, and that's okay. Sometimes you just have to learn from your own mistakes before you need to know what to search for. But also for the people, it's just frustrating for them, right? Because it can make people feel disenfranchised about the whole model itself. So I think, meta ads, as they're now called. So when I say that, I'm referring to obviously Facebook and Instagram ads as a whole. They can really drain your budget quickly if you don't know what you're doing. And if you're banking on them being the answer to potentially, a shaky foundation of a product that maybe isn't that in demand or isn't going to be that profitable, or your conversion rate on your website has not really been optimized, or your website's not been optimized for a high conversion rate, it can become problematic. And it's a bit like, when you, if you see like a show on Netflix and you see the thumbnail and you think, yeah, that looks good, I'll give it a try, or a movie or something. And you start watching it and you're like, I feel like I've been duped here. Like the thumbnail was really good, but the show is very disappointing. And like, it's like that when you see this shiny new course out there teaching you how to make millions with dropshipping, and it's like laptop independent lifestyle, and all you need to do is throw up a load of TikTok ads, find products on AliExpress, and then ship them to your customers. And you kind of think, this isn't the business that I thought I was signing up for here. And you realize you're not enjoying it. It's like the show, you're still watching it on Netflix, but it's that sunk cost bias where you're halfway into it and you think, do I give up now and just start a different show? But you're kind of halfway into it, so you're not really sure. That's the thing. Like, we work with a lot of people who've signed up to other courses that are teaching this shiny new e-commerce business model. But then once they're in, they realize that it's a flawed model and that it's just reliant on the TikTok or Facebook ads or influencer shout outs, you name it. Whatever the marketing strategy is, it's usually selling cheap, low quality widgets where there's hardly any profit, and it's just a bit of a miserable experience, even if you get it working, which is difficult to do. But we've had people saying, I'm making loads of profit, I just hate opening my laptop every morning because it's full of customer complaints in the inbox, and I really don't want to stand behind a brand like this. Or perhaps they've joined a program that does teach a high ticket model, but they've realized that the person leading the program has no idea about the UK market or how things work in the environment where they're based. We see a lot of these programs saying, it's a globally generic model, but we'll just kind of tack on a UK element to it and, you'll be good to go. And I think it's a bit of an afterthought, and you start to realize that it all becomes unraveled when you realize that the founders don't really understand how the UK market operates. So don't be fooled by it. If you're surrounded by people operating in a totally different country to you, there will be no one for you to turn to when you need it most. They'll happily sell you into it, but you're going to be operating in a market with different laws, different business taxes, different legislation, different e-commerce rules, different ways of talking to suppliers. Your supplier script will need to be different company structures. The list goes on. There are huge differences. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen that I wish that we could just help people avoid is that they join a cheap course because they think, I'll wing it. This will do. I'll kind of find the way. And then they find out the hard way that buy cheap means buy twice. and they pay for a course that's run by people who have no idea how things work in the UK market. Instead of just investing into tailored mentorship right from the outset that could help them avoid all of those costly mistakes right from the beginning, this eventually costs our members thousands, both in wasted cash because they obviously spend the money, but then they also end up, we speak to them 6 months later when they've wasted 6 months of their journey following a module or a model that was flawed. So if this podcast has reached you now, if you're listening to this now and you're in the position of considering doing that, all I can say is heed our warning. Don't make the same mistake that lots of other people have done before coming to us. If I could give you one piece of advice, it would be skip that part of the journey because it's not fun. Jump straight into the tailored solution that will save you a lot of time and money. And by the way, if you'd like to delve deeper into how that works, the Dropship Unlocked podcast episode number 25 could be just what you need to hear after this one. It's titled What Dropshipping Gurus Won't Tell You. And it goes in depth about this.
And I wish I'd heeded your warning a little bit earlier, Lewis, because I went straight down that path of trying to learn from YouTube videos. And of course, if you try and do things the quick way or the cheap way or the way that looks the most obvious initially, it just leads to more wasted cash because you're just trying to make it work for yourself. And instead, you get around training, but also the thing about Dropship Unlocked that really helped me was getting around the community and having people around you. So if you're concerned about making mistakes, well, all you need to do is drop a quick message into that community and people will tell you how they've overcome that mistake before or how to avoid it happening in the first place. Prevention is going to be better than cure. So if you can preempt these things and not even go down the road of making the mistakes that I had to make before I started a dropshipping business, you'll be so much better off, both financially and emotionally. So something that people can get into trouble with potentially with a dropshipping business is cash flow. So let's talk a little bit about how cash flow can be a real issue for some business people. And if they don't understand how to manage their cash flow successfully, then I think you'll agree, Lewis, it really can lead people down into some big troubles for their business.
Yeah, definitely. You're spot on with the cash flow being a big challenge or a potential pitfall. It's easy for newcomers to get a little bit overexcited, a little bit overzealous with their marketing spend when they first beginning. And by the way, I fell into this trap, so I'm speaking from personal experience. This isn't me pointing the finger. I'm saying I've done this, so please, again, heed my warning if you can, because it's strange. Like, it's not really like anything else in life or in business. You figure this way where, I spend money on ads and now I start seeing sales come in. So you're like, okay, well, I'll just do more of this then. I'll just spend more on ads and then I'll just get more sales. But the trouble with that is if you aren't measuring your profitability per sale from the outset, it's kind of like running a marathon, but not pacing yourself. It's like starting a marathon and you just sprint as fast as you can because you're like, okay, well, more of that then. Obviously, you can only sprint for so long and probably not the duration of a marathon, right? So it seems obvious because you might just be thinking, well, of course you need to manage your profitability. And it is obvious when you're making 1 or 2 sales per day, right? When you see the sale come in for £1,000 and you're like, okay, yep, we made £300. We spent £50 on ads. Fine. Okay. We made £200 in profit, whatever. But what about when you start making 20 or 30 sales per week and you step back from the business and you've automated the process and you're not part of it anymore because the VA can run it and you are now on holiday with your family? What happens if you aren't regularly reviewing your marketing spend? Or if, an ad or a product isn't providing a high enough return on ad spend or ROAS? It's easy, if unregulated or unchecked, for that ad to continue to spend and that product to continue to waste marketing spend unnoticed. And suddenly it's at break even, where it's only generating you as much in profit as you spent on ads to acquire the sale, right? There's no point running a business like that. But what's even worse is it can actually dip into loss making. And it can now be costing you more to acquire that. For whatever reason, maybe the conversion rate on that product has dipped dramatically because there's a competitor out there who's now selling it at half the price, or something's happened and you took your eye off the ball. Don't throw good money after bad, as they say. More ad spend won't fix that problem. You can just pour money on it and say, I'm just going to spend my way out of this problem. And that's where you can get into trouble really quickly, right? So sometimes it's a conversion rate issue. And we're kind of thinking, well, why aren't we able to acquire customers at a lower cost per sale? But maybe it's a case of, well, we need better margins from our suppliers. We typically aim for 30% margins from our suppliers, meaning that if you say you sell a product that's £1,600, right? So a high ticket product, kind of mid-range, good quality product. A 30% margin on that means a £480 profit per sale. Okay, one single sale nets you £480. Now, if you can acquire that sale at, say, £50 in ad spend, which, is a decent amount, that still leaves you with £430 in net profit. Okay, on a single sale, £430 net profit. 2 or 3 of those sales per day, right? Imagine you get to your business to the point where you're making 2 or 3 of those per day for 365 days a year. That will make you just under £500,000 in profit per year after ad spend. So when people say, well, what's the profit like in this business? It can be incredible, but only if you're making sure you keep a very close eye on that profitability from the outset. So again, sounds obvious, and maybe it is obvious, but don't take the risk of assuming that it's obvious. Make sure you keep track of it, because that can get you into difficulty. Always have that financial safety net there. Take money off the table if you can. Put it away for a rainy day. Have some good solid business operating cost savings, and just know your numbers. We give you our UK specific profit tracker right from the outset, so you can calculate the VAT, the profit, the money to set aside even for your corporation tax and your VAT bill each quarter or each year, so that right from the outset you have everything you need set up from a cash flow perspective to set you up for success in the long run.
And it will pay dividends for years to come once you've got that set up. And I think all the risks that we talk about, they are big risks that are involved, but there's risks involved with growing any business. And in fact, dropshipping, I've always known, is one of the lower risk businesses that you can get started, because as long as you do all those critical points that you mentioned there, Lewis, and you really keep a close eye on your marketing spend, and you don't try and scale too quickly, you don't try and increase your budget too quickly, and get greedy after sales, then you really are in a great position where you can really hedge your bets and be really successful and keep the downside incredibly low with dropshipping. So a really important point, and it is a mistake that we see people make, is trying to scale too quickly, and that's when you open yourself up to risk. But make sure you keep an eye on the profitability, and that's how I was able to scale consistently and considerably to the point where we're talking about the large profit numbers that we've talked about today. So if we were to recommend an ideal dropshipping business, we reverse engineered a dropshipping business to be absolutely perfect to avoid these mistakes and common pitfalls that we see, what would you recommend for people to do?
Yeah, certainly. So firstly, as we just said in the last example, opt for high ticket products. You get to choose. I remember one of my mentors once told me that when you're fishing, you get to decide, do you fish with minnow bait or whale bait? And if you think about that, it's the same with e-commerce. Do you go out there and try and sell these cheap little widgets with hardly any profit? Or do you aim for the £1,600 sale that nets you $430 after ads? I don't endorse fishing for whales, by the way, but you catch my drift, right? That's the idea here, that you get to choose what you use as your toolkit. Now, the other thing is to diversify your suppliers. So don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Don't just have one single supplier that works for you. Again, following our model, if you've chosen your niche correctly, you will have already sense checked this as one of the criteria, so that you have a nice broad range of suppliers who are all happy to dropship, who you can sign up as soon as you are in business. Right? Don't just go into it and hope later you can sign suppliers. Validate that ahead of time using the model that we go through as one of our 9 different criteria. The other thing would be master your marketing avenues, but have more than one of them. Like with suppliers, don't just rely solely on Google Ads. Once your Google Ads are working, you're profitable, you're making a couple of maybe 20, 30,000 in sales per month, that's probably the time to start thinking about, okay, well, let's diversify to meta ads as well and set up a really solid retargeting campaign. Then maybe it's some on-site SEO, maybe it's some link building. I was visiting my parents yesterday, and when I was driving, there was really heavy traffic on the motorway. And you know how Google Maps, when you first start your route, it shows you 4 or 3 different routes usually. It's the long one, the short one, and the one that goes on the country roads. Well, that's kind of the analogy here. If it doesn't work, or Google Ads get shut down, or something happens, you don't want that to be your only route of marketing into your business. If that road gets blocked, you've got backups. You want it to be the same with the traffic and the marketing routes into your business. You want to make sure you have that redundancy in place.
Absolutely wise words. And once you've got the Google Ads set up and profitable, you can then reinvest into other areas and really diversify the business. And that's when you have a business that you can stand behind, that has the long-term income stream that you can rely on every month. So something else he's asked, and you as well listening might be thinking about this as well, Once you've avoided the mistakes and you've set up that perfect dropshipping business model that we talk about, how can you then maximize the efficiency of running that business and start running it from just 3 days a week?
Yeah, well, definitely. You're probably thinking at home at the moment, if you're first starting out with this, you might be balancing this with a job. So actually, when you first start, you might not have 7 days of your week and all your time to be able to spend on this. It might be that you need to batch this into the hours before or after work. That's how I started. I know that's how you started. And actually, it's quite a sensible way to begin with. So yeah, maximizing your efficiency is going to be pivotal, especially when you're balancing this with a busy life, work life, social life, whatever. I was watching the Beckham documentary the other day, and it was really interesting. I don't know if you've already seen it, but he was showing how he has his wardrobe, his walk-in wardrobe set up, incredibly organized, neat. Like he's got all of his t-shirts and folded and color coordinated, all his suits and white shirts lined up in the wardrobe. It's really satisfying and pleasing for me to be like, oh man, that's exactly how I'd like my wardrobe set up. But one of the interesting things is the camera kind of spun to this rail by the window, and he had all of his outfits on there for the week. Like they were all hung up and prepared. And he said, yeah, I'm a bit OCD with that. Like I like to have all of my outfits prepared ahead of the week. And I just thought, that's brilliant. Like talk about efficiency. For someone like him, who's incredibly busy, he's going to all these public appearances, he's going out to all these press events. He doesn't want to be waking up and thinking, okay, better, put together an amazing paparazzi-worthy designer outfit today. He's just got those decisions made so he can be super efficient, right? And so it's exactly the same. When we're building and running an e-commerce business with a busy life, we don't want to be making those decisions on the fly. We want to have a proven training and have a community like ours that can drastically cut that learning curve and make you as efficient as possible. You've got hundreds of like-minded UK-based entrepreneurs to run any potential decisions past, any challenges that you may face, any dilemmas that you are facing or even are worried about facing. And at a moment's notice, you have our private community at your fingertips to be able to put those things in place so that you don't even have to make those decisions as and when they arise. For those wanting a step-by-step guide, our episode 26 of the Dropship Unlocked podcast is definitely worth a listen. It's titled 3-Step Method to Build a High-Profit Shopify Dropshipping Store. And that one is a must listen as well. And perhaps you haven't even hired your virtual assistant yet, because as soon as you do, things will become easier. But imagine you haven't even hired the virtual assistant. Well, being proactive with customer communication, like our listeners' idea, I think Raheem sent the email in, didn't he? Having a callback system is an incredible idea. That's gold. I mean, I went for lunch the other day at a burger restaurant in London with my brother. We walked in and it was really busy. And they just said, can I take your phone number? Right? And we were like, okay, gave our phone number. And then we walked outside and there was kind of a crowd of people. And within 2 minutes, we got a text saying, your table's ready. It's table 36 or something. And we just walked straight in and went to the table. Now, there was a crowd of people outside, but within minutes, we got that text and we went straight to the table. So maximum efficiency. There's no need for them to have some person outside standing like, right, table for 2, like table 36 coming. It's all just automated. There's a system and it's just maximum efficiency because they've put a system in place that works. So we want the same thing wherever we can within our business.
And once you've got that set up, not only does it take out a lot of hours that you have to be involved with the business, but it ends up making your business a lot more profitable, scalable, because you can focus on really the key levers to pull to grow your business. And you know that all the day-to-day things are being looked after as efficiently as possible. So it's absolutely possible to be running this efficiently and avoiding all of those big pitfalls that we've talked about today. But if you had to summarize, Lewis, and give people the best advice you possibly can about how to avoid dropshipping pitfalls before they get started, what would you ask them to do?
Yeah, I'd say learn from these insights. Try not to be paralyzed by the fear, because if you're paralyzed by the fear, you'll never be able to progress. It's like being afraid of water. You'll never swim unless you just jump in. But engage with our community, share your concerns, be vocal about them, grow together, get other people's insight on it. We're all doing this together. So we're all on this same exciting journey together, but don't work on a desert island because you don't have to. Come and join us if you like. It's way more fun to help each other succeed and to celebrate each other's wins. If you're anything like me, when you make an amazing win, you might not have people around you kind of like geographically that care or understand what you're doing. So it's really good to have that community where you can say, I just made an incredible 10 grand sale, or we just hit our record day in sales, and everybody can celebrate and cheer you on and see you win as well. And you can do the same for others. So it's mutually beneficial. To learn more about our method of dropshipping that we've discussed today, pick up a copy of my book, The Home Turf Advantage. This provides a step-by-step guide for you to get started and get your business up and running. It's available now if you go to htabook.com. Just a quick heads up, if you'd like to share your questions, stories, successes, or challenges, you can email us directly at podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. And you never know, we might even feature you on the next podcast episode.
Also, if you want access to today's show notes or any of the resources we've mentioned in the episode today, then head over to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast. We also have a small favour to ask of you. If you enjoyed the show so far, if you could take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice.
You wouldn't believe how much your reviews help us grow the podcast. We'll even read out some of our favourites on the next episode. So if you want to be featured on the show, please do go ahead and leave us a review today. Thanks so much for your support. We really couldn't do it without you, and we absolutely love hearing what you think of the podcast.
We've received a question in from a listener, and this question has come in from Martin. And Lewis, I'm going to pose it to you today to help Martin out, but also anyone else that has the same question in mind. So Martin's got his question in by emailing us. It's podcast@dropshipunlocked.com if you want to email us as well with your questions. So I'll read out your question for you now, Lewis. So Martin's asked, I will be getting the book soon, but the thing that's bothering me is whether I can set up a limited company from abroad and all of the paperwork involved with filing, etc. I'm currently in Bangkok, Thailand, and I have never had a limited company before.
Amazing. So you're kind of doing it the opposite way to most, Martin. You're already in the nomadic destination and now you're trying to set up your company, but that's fine. Thank you for the question. And anybody else who's in that same position as well, who maybe isn't in the UK but wants to do this, then hopefully this answer will help you. So first thing is you can set up a UK limited company from abroad, no problem. Certainly whilst you're living in Thailand, there's absolutely no restriction on you registering your own UK limited company. You'd simply go to Companies House and register the company in the same way that you would if you were living in the UK. And we guide you how to do this in the first couple of modules of our program. You'd need your company's registered address, though, to be in the UK. And this is something that you can do with what's called a formation agent. So you don't need to physically be in the UK at the time or have an address in the UK, but you can get a UK address that will take in your post and things like that. Alternatively, if you want to keep it really simple, you can use the digital bank Tide. So if you head over to dropshipunlocked.com/Tide, we've partnered with Tide Bank. And by signing up using that link, you get £50 for free and 1 year of free transfers as well. And you can even have them register your company on your behalf. They'll use their address as your registered company address and they'll set you up right from the outset. So you can kind of get it all done by heading over to dropshipunlocked.com/Tide. And then regarding the filing for your company and all of the taxes, things like that, that can all be completed by an accountant. So once you're up and running and you're making sales, that's the point at which I'd advise reaching out to an accountant who can help you with all of the necessary filing and get all of that paperwork completed for you. You can use the profits from within the business to pay an accountant a very reasonable fee and get all of that stuff sorted. So it's not a headache for you. So hopefully that's alleviated any concerns or nerves that you had about that process. I hope this helps you and that you enjoy the book. And after you've purchased the book, I'll see you inside our private Launchpad community, which everybody gets access to as soon as they've purchased the book from htabook.com.
And it's a great community to be part of. So absolutely look forward to seeing you in there, Martin. And thanks for the quick and simple advice there, Lewis. That's a real hack for anyone to get their business started in an afternoon. If you go through the Tide Bank offer that we've got, your business bank account and your company can be set up, whether you're in the UK or abroad, in an afternoon. It's a brilliant way to get started. And the barrier to entry to starting a business is so low these days, so we can really make the most of that. So as well as answering a question, we are also going to highlight a review that we've had in from a listener recently. And this review has come from Vishal, and he's left his review on Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much for your review. I will read it out for you now on the podcast. So Vishal said, a great listen. The Dropship Unlocked story is one which aims to inspire individuals into starting their own tale of success. The journey which Lewis goes through is one of which proves this sort of lifestyle can be achieved. And the production values are high. It's a podcast well worth a listen. And as a member of Dropship Unlocked, I would also recommend the masterclass, which is helping me to achieve my dreams. So thank you, Vishal, for the review. Really, really kind review. Lewis's story is definitely inspiring. And also, it's great to hear you're a member of the masterclass community.
Yeah, thank you so much for your review, Vishal. We're so glad to hear that you've been enjoying the podcast. Do you want to make an impact on the podcast? It's surprisingly straightforward. If so, simply leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Or alternatively, if you're a YouTube person, then drop us a comment on this video. Your review may just be featured in our next episode. Now, before we wrap things up, if you're listening to this, you can make a big difference to this podcast. Maybe there's a friend or a colleague or a family member who has also dreamt of that e-commerce journey, or maybe they fantasized about the digital nomad location independent lifestyle. Do them a favor. Share this episode with them, and who knows, this might be the spark they've been waiting for.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you found the discussion both inspiring and entertaining.
If you're ready to begin your own high-ticket dropshipping journey, then here's what to do next. I've taken all of the years of my own experience, both in running my e-commerce businesses and teaching hundreds of others how to do the same, and I've condensed it all into my book, The Home Turf Advantage. It's your comprehensive guide designed to help you create your own e-commerce business. And you can grab your copy today at htabook.com.
Stay connected by subscribing to the podcast. This way you'll never miss an episode packed with valuable insights. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review. Your feedback motivates us, and we love sharing our favorite reviews on future episodes.
And thank you for deciding to spend your time with us today. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to sharing more high-ticket dropshipping insights with you on our next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.